Good evening, Facebook. How's it going? How's it going? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Elevated Men. I'm your host, A.L. Johnson, and I'm here with my favorite people. And we're going to be talking to you today about what we always talk about, and that's uplifting the man. It's our belief that as we uplift the man, men build strong families, and strong families build strong communities. And so, this is what we're all about here: is really improving our situation as a people, improving our situation as a community. That's really what it's all about. And so, first off, first order of business, I want to thank everyone who's been tuning in. We've been at this for about a month and a half. We've got a few listeners that are with us every week like clockwork, and we appreciate you. We appreciate the likes, we appreciate the comments, getting into the conversation, giving us your input, giving us your feedback. We appreciate all of that. And so keep doing it. Thank you. For anybody that's tuning in, make sure that you share this with your network, share it with your friends, the men in your life, whether it's your son, your nephew, your cousin, your brother. Get them in on the conversation as well, because what we're doing here is building stronger men. And we know that that's what we need. That's definitely what we need. We've got some good news I want to share with you all. A couple of things really quick. Go ahead and put it on your calendar next Wednesday, March 10th. We've got a big one-on-one interview with the three-time mayor, three-time mayor of Compton, California. His name is Omar Bradley. He has a very unique, very interesting story. He was at the beginning of the Pyru Blood Gang. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Tukey Williams and the Crips and everything that was going on during that era in the 80s and 90s. He was right there, front and center. He was also involved in the Tupac Shakur case. And so we're going to be talking about everything from what he was able to see, being right there in that lifestyle, how he was able to transition out, go to college. He's got 3 degrees, became a councilman, and then a 3-time mayor. And so when I say that redemption and turnaround is a possibility for anybody, he really exemplifies that. And so I can't wait to bring his story to you. I'm so excited. The other bit of news that I wanted to share with you all, Big Brothers and Big Sisters has an event coming up in April. And they reached out to us. And so Elevating Men will be a part of the panel in which we'll be talking to the young men in our city about getting their life off on the right track. And so things are moving in the right direction. The whole goal for Elevating Men is for us to get into the community and help and affect change. And it's starting to happen already. And we're just getting started. So I'm very, very, very excited about that. Again, thank all of you who have been tuning in. Please keep tuning in. Please keep supporting. We really appreciate that. We really appreciate that. And so, just to recap, last week, if you guys were here last week, we had a great conversation. The title was "Processing Trauma from Being a Fatherless Child." There were so many breakthroughs made because of that, guys. I hadn't even got a chance to share it with you, but there were so many inboxes, so many phone calls. I had a brother call me directly. And we talked for about an hour, and he was able to, have some breakthroughs because of that show. Some of the things that we talked about, the experiences that we shared for ourselves. He said that he had never heard men speak so openly, and it prompted him to give a call, and we had a great conversation. He had a huge breakthrough, and it was a big blessing for him. I had 2 ladies reach out. One, she had a conversation with her husband in which he was able to have a breakthrough. Things that they've been married for over a decade that he had never shared with her until he was able to come on a platform and see men speaking openly. And so we're really making a difference here. We're really making a difference. And then the last one, it was a grandmother who shared it with her grandson and was able to open up some really, much needed conversations that he needed to have about not having his father in his life. And so, any of the past episodes, if you guys want to check those out, you can go to YouTube at Elevating Men, which right now we're actually streaming from 3 places. We're streaming on YouTube at Elevating Men, the Elevating Men Facebook page, and right here on my page. And so for all of you that are tuning in, again, like, comment, share, join the conversation, because we value your input greatly. And so before we get into today's topic, as always, I want to introduce my fellows that are here with me. And so starting to my right, we got Mr. LaRon, the motivator. How you doing, brother? How you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Andrew, man. I'm excited to talk about what we're going to talk about, man. We got a wonderful topic, man. So, man, I'm ready to get into it with my brothers.
Yes. And then below him, we got Mr. A.L. Boykin, from the Restoration, restin2050.org. How you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm always wonderful. I'm having a conversation with you gentlemen. You all feed me in so many ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And of course, last but not least, we've got Mr. Lauren Jones. He's the founder of Fatherhood. He's part of the Lawrence A. Jones Funeral Home family. How you doing, brother?
Greetings, gentlemen, man. It's always an honor to be in your presence. Let's get to it.
Awesome. And I got to say hi to a couple of our loyal followers here. Stephen James, he said, "How are you, fellas?" He was on the show last week. Stephen, thanks for your input, man. We learned a lot from you. We'll definitely have you back on again. Tammy, Martin, Carolyn, she's actually with the boys and Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And we had a great conversation this week. Tammy, thank you for tuning in. Isaiah Brandley, he says, "What's up, King? What's up, brother? What's up?" And so we've got a new person that we want to introduce to you on the panel tonight. And so I'm going to go ahead and add him to the stream. This brother's name is Christopher Galloway. Can you hear me, Chris?
Salute to everyone on the panel.
Man, now this is a humble guy. He just comes in with the do-rag on and hits the salute. But I'm telling you, this man has done a lot in our community. He's a former police officer. He's been a mentor to young men in our community for the past 15 years. And so he has a lot to add to this conversation. He's also a restaurateur and an actor. And so, he's been in a couple of movies, a couple short films. He does some modeling. I've seen him on stage plays all over the place. This brother, Christopher Galloway. And so first, I want to thank you for taking a little time out of your busy schedule. I know you could be doing anything right now, but being on here with us is really important to me. And so, brother to brother, I want to thank you for being here. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank you guys for the opportunity. Elevated Man, I've watched you guys' podcast a couple times, and I know a few of you guys on here for sure. And I love what you guys are doing, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. And anything I can bring to the conversation, I'm ready, I'm willing, I'm able. And if I don't do anything, I just want to learn from everybody on this panel tonight something I can take away from this.
Beautiful. So whenever we have a new guest on the show, we just like to get a little bit of insight, kind of fill you out, see what some of your philosophies are and things like that. And so first and foremost, here at Elevated Men, we're all about really giving men a platform, not to air our grievances. This isn't like a man complain channel. This is for us to take accountability and change our lives for the better, right? That's what we do here. And so with your experience and being a mentor for the past 15 years, what is the one issue that you see the most with young men when it comes to, finding themselves and, setting themselves on a path for a fulfilling life? What's the number one challenge that you see?
Well, a lot of these young men are fatherless. You got to understand that a lot of them are growing up in a single parent home where you're dealing with just a mother. And so when a man comes into their lives, like myself or other mentors, and you have to start a trust bond with them first and foremost, because they don't trust you, because men have let them down. And you're being raised by, nothing's wrong with being raised by a woman, because I was raised by a woman. My dad was deceased, so he didn't have the opportunity to raise me. But when you're being raised by a woman, you're taught a lot of emotional traits. A lot of these young men have emotional traits, and so they don't really use logic. They quick to go and tap into their emotional side. And so what you have to work with them on is using logic. It has to make logical sense. Try to reverse the whole emotion part and get more into logic. And so that's the main thing with me when I deal with young men is I try to tap into the logical reservoir that they don't even use, because it's a logic reserve because they never have to use it. And once you get to tap into the logic standpoint of life, they can still use emotion, but logic is the forefront of what men tend to use when they're thriving off emotion. We want to go with logic first. If it makes sense to us, we'll do it. If it doesn't make sense, we'll fight against it. And so I try my best to get the young man to understand logic, understand not to use so much emotion, but still have.
You went mute for a second. Okay.
Still have emotion, but don't be emotional. And so that's what I work with them a lot on. And I feel like what we're facing in this day and age is a lot of young men are fatherless.
So when you talk about like having emotion versus being emotional, I think that's a big thing, because that speaks to really having to walk a fine line, having the emotions, knowing how to tap into it and process it. what are some tools that you found in mentoring these boys that are helpful with that specific portion of it?
Well, like for example, I have one young man. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's a big boy. He's probably about 6'3", 6'4", maybe 280, 290 plus. Big kid. But I see when things don't go his way, he gets real emotional and he starts crying and he starts pouting and he becomes like a baby all over again. I have to sit down with him. I said, young man, you're 17 years old. There's no reason for you to be sitting here crying because something didn't go your way. I said, life is not gonna always go your way. Things are never gonna happen the way we planned it. However, we are the author of our own confusion sometimes. And so what you have to do is look at what you did wrong, process it. Don't get emotional. It's okay to have emotion about it. And it's okay to be passionate about whatever you're standing on. But you go past passion and you go straight to being emotional. It's like, I'm going to cry, I'm going to do all these things, and you're still not going to get what you want. At the end of the day, you're still losing. And so I don't want you to look at being emotional. I just want you to understand that emotion is there, but there's another thing to look at too, which is logic. And so if I can get you to think about what happened, I can get you to think of how you could have done it differently. And if I can get you to pull back off emotion and stop being emotional, you'll understand how to move forward in the same thing and take it as a learning experience versus as somebody tearing you down.
Got it. So, before we get into the actual content for tonight, that actually did spark another question, and this is like really where I want to start with the panel here. And so, all of you guys be kind of thinking about this, but here's my question. I read something that said a lot of men are good men, meaning that they'll take care of their families, they'll work a job, they're not violent towards women, they're good men. But a lot of men aren't good at being a man, meaning that they don't get the results that they want from being, quote unquote, the nice guy. And so, just each of you, what are your thoughts on that specific statement? A lot of men are good men, but they're not good at being a man. What do you think some of the causes of that? Start with you, LaRon.
A lot of men are good men, but they're not good at being a man. I believe
Mm-hmm.
comes not having a man raise them. Not having a man to raise them. They don't know how to be a man. How do you be a man if you never were taught? So the men have a good heart. They want to do right, but they doing all we can do. We doing all we know to do, all we're taught to do. And so it just takes some mentorship, some programming, some right influences, getting yourself around the right individuals who will direct you in the right way, like programs like Elevating Men. But I think that's really what it is. Men want to do right, but how can you do something that you don't know?
Good response. Andrew, what are your thoughts on that? You can be a good man, but not good at being a man.
I agree with what you all are saying. I'm just trying to find the words that actually says that the measure of a man, because some men are actually raised to be the man that they are, and they actually accept that. They do not have to find themselves outside of the man that they are. A lot of men are not confident. One of the comments says that talks about their lack of confidence when they're fatherless, or they have doubt, shall I say. But more so when that man is actually raised by that postal worker, or that trash man, that business owner, that unemployed man who's actually head of the household but taking care of things while mother is at work. When he is confident with what he has been given, it actually shows, and he does not have to look too much further because he does not doubt the man that he already is. This goes against those who don't have that man, like LeBron was saying, like Chris was saying. They don't know what the measure is because it's everywhere, so they're always looking.
Good input. What about you, Lojo?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have a ton to add. I mean, I think everybody hit some key bullet points. I guess the initial question would be, what is the definition of a man? Like, you almost have to define what that definition is in order to truly be able to answer that question.
How would you define a man? What's your definition? Your quick definition?
I mean, it's a loaded question. I mean, when you talk about, because I mean, there's different facets of a man, and there's different sections of life in which a man will do different things. I mean, obviously, even before he gets to the man stage, he's a boy, and I think that that's a lot of what the issue is we never got out of the boy stage. We're stuck in that boy stage instead of taking those steps to become a man. And a lot of that is lack of exposure, lack of experience, us not having fathers in the house. But even sometimes you can have a father in the house and the father's not really in tune with the totality. You talk about a father being a provider, or a man being a provider. Well, a man and a father has to be more than a provider. That is just a piece of what we do, but that's not all about who we are. And so it's really it's really broken down into different sectors. We talk about the emotional side of it, and a lot of us boys being raised by mothers, so that's kind of how we respond, because that's the way we've been taught to respond. We've been taught to respond emotionally instead of thinking pragmatically and logically, through whatever process may be, and if when you get married or you have kids before you're actually ready, essentially you're spilling that same stuff over into those relationships, which is where it can just add to the toxicity of any relationship, really.
Got it. So I appreciate you guys' input on that question, because it's a good place for us to start the conversation today. And what the recurring thing, yes.
Hey, before you jump there, ask every guy to give you one word or one trait, because one thing that we don't do is we don't actually do something. Meaning, you asked the question, what is the traits of a man? And then Corey Infamy was saying the same thing, and we don't address what we think a starting point could be. Let's give the audience a starting point, because my one word would be coverer. Regardless of his of who raised him, he will accept the responsibility. I might not be the biggest person in the world, but I'm going to cover my family. If that means I have to put my life on the line, I'm going to cover my family. So cover is my word.
For me, I would say this. So the most influential man in my life, he gave me a acronym. It's ARPP. So like AARP, for the older people, but ARPP. And so he says that a man is accountable, he's responsible, he's a protector, and he's a provider, right? And so a man has to hold himself accountable to do what he needs to do, whether that be, going to that job that he hates every day, whether that's, spending 90% of his check on the family when he wants to do other things. He's accountable, he's responsible. And then he's also a protector of all women and children in his circle. And so that's not just, your personal children, that's your nieces, your nephews, and anyone else that you associate with. As a man, you should be willing to protect them if the time calls for it. And then, of course, a provider. And so that would be my response: accountable, responsible, protector, and provider. Do any of you have anything to add to that? Just traits of a man, or just giving us a baseline of what a man is, to have this conversation?
To me, a man's a master. And when I say a master, you got to really dig deep in this, but because to be a man, you have to master it. You can't just wake up and say, I'm a man. You got to master being a man. So every trait that comes with being a man, you have to master that. So like you said, you have to hate going to that job, but you go. You have to hate spending 90% of your check on your family, but you do it. All those things make you the master, because without you mastering being a man, you could never be a man. It's no different than when they say you have to master that dog on the inside of a man to become a man and become the master, you have to master that dog to keep him under control. That way you can protect your family. That way you can protect your house and be a good husband to your wife and not be a cheater and not be a misuser or an abuser. You have to master, because that dog in you takes that man away. That dog makes you be a cheater, makes you be an abuser of your family, make you abuser of yourself, make you abuser of everything around you, because that dog controls you. So once you master that dog on the inside, you can do all those good traits that a man does: be a provider, be a protector, be all those great, be accountable, be responsible. All those things come with mastering that dog. You master that dog, you become the master.
Man, I like that. So when you say, mastering the dog, when you say mastering the dog as a man, I know exactly what you mean by that. I definitely know what you mean by that. What are some strategies that we can employ as far as, taming ourselves, being able to put ourselves in the cage, even though we control the key and we can let ourselves out whenever we want to. How do we manage that?
Well, and just it takes time. It's like training a real dog. It's almost in the sense of like training an actual dog. What do we do to train our dogs? We continue to reiterate the same thing over and over again. Reiterate it. Sit, stay, sit, stay, sit, stay. Don't, no, stop, don't, no, stop, stay. Okay, now you can move. Now do these things. It's the same way with yourself. You have to start saying no. I mean, literally, you can say it out loud. I mean, it might sound crazy to do that, but it's okay because you're trying to master that dog. So it's okay to say no, don't, down, boy, stop. I've done it. Down, boy, quit. Because that helps you become the master. Until you able to tell him to stop, sit, don't stay, he's going to continue to run your life in a negative way because the dog wants to do what the dog wants to do. We all had dogs. And it's like, why'd you do that? Because I'm going to do it anyway. Until you master me and you become my master, I'm going to do this to you and you're going to take it.
Man, so Andrew, I would love to hear love to hear your take on this.
Dude, don't even try it. This is LaRon's turn.
No, this is an Andrew question. This is an Andrew question. So check this out seriously, man. So from your vantage point, you have a little more wisdom than the other guys here on the panel. What is the dog? Can you describe the dog for us as a man? Like what is the dog? And before he answers this, everybody, this is also the author of the book 10 Reasons Why I Refuse to Say I Love You, which really chronicles a lot of the mental issues that men have in relationships and why we're so closed in. And so from your viewpoint, what exactly is that dog?
The dog is the pain. The dog is that which we are trying to escape from. It is that drug. It is whatever it is that we need to release from our reality. And that is that shortcut into, okay, let me get away from this reality. I cannot solve it. Let me find someplace else to be other than my reality. And that means now I'll do anything to soothe this pain. And that means I'll do anything to you. I'll do anything around her. I'll do anything about this particular situation. I'll do anything to get rid of this pain, even for the moment.
Got it. No, this is good. This is good. So today we're talking about how men can live a more fulfilling life. So let's get into solutions. We know we've all got the dog that we need to tame. As men, we're all trying to work towards being better at that every day. But let's kind of talk about solutions. So here's a theory that I have, and I want to run this by you guys and see what you think about it. I believe that a lot of our men are playing the game as if they're in the wrong quarter of life. And so what I mean by that, average life expectancy is about 80 years old. And so if you split that up into 4 quarters, just like a basketball game, that's 20 years, 20 years, 20 years, 20 years. It's my belief that each 20 years has a specific purpose. And so I want to go through those 20 years, what I feel the purpose should be, and get you all's opinion on what people should be doing during that time to make sure that their life is fulfilling. And so in quarter 1, that's 0 to age 20, I call that controlled discovery and preparation. And so during that time, 0 to 20, you only have 2 years during that whole quarter in which you are considered an adult and can make your own decisions. And so during that time, you're discovering things about life, but in a controlled environment. There's only so much you can do unless you go way outside of the box. And during that time, you have to be being prepared for life as a man. And so we can't, negate the fact that a lot of men are raised by women. And so inherently, there's a little difficulty in that preparation phase of, how do I become a man? But all of the influences around me are women. Now, we talk about this on the show a lot, different tips and tools that women can use, whether it be pulling other men in the family, and plugging them into things like this, like elevating men, having tough conversations with them, asking really tough questions, whether it's comfortable or not, but making sure that they're prepared in every way. And so just in the first quarter of life, 0 to 20, what do you feel are just a couple key things that you feel need to happen to put a person on track for the next 20 years? And with that, I'd like to start with you, Lauren.
Allowing mistakes, allowing failure. A lot of times you're not allowed to make a mistake at a young age. And so, there's an emotional piece to it, so for instance, like with my kids, I'm okay with them making mistakes because ultimately that's how we learn. If we choose to take that path of actually learning from our mistakes in order to get better, because failure is just an opportunity to get back on the horse and ride again, and I think we need to, especially as adults, we have to be patient, and allow that opportunity for failure, and make those teachable moments is what I would say. Make those teachable moments. Another thing I would say, for the newborn to 20, is discipline. You learn discipline at a young age. It doesn't start when you become an adult. It has to start when you're coming up as an adolescent, a teenager, a young man. You have to learn discipline, because discipline will truly take you it'll keep you on the right path, or on a good path, as you move into the next phase.
Got it. And I think one of the big major things that's extremely important in that first quarter is to not make any detrimental long-term mistakes. So what do I mean by that? Don't be the high school kid who's in the car with the wrong guys and they, rob a store, and now you got accessory to robbery on your record, and now you have a hard time getting a job. Don't get hooked on drugs, because, during that high school phase, that's where you have the peer pressure to go into drugs and alcohol. If you can get out of that first quarter without having any children, great. And so that first quarter to me is, you want to discover as much about life as you can. Of course, you're going to be controlled partially by your parents. So you want to discover as much as possible, but you also want to be prepared. And in that preparation, there's that point of not making mistakes that will affect you in the next quarter of life. What are your thoughts on that, Laurent?
Well, first of all, I agree with everything Lauren said. I mean, that was excellent in doing that. But after you get past the first quarter and the second quarter, I would say, look to discover you. Look to discover what you like to do. Look to find out what makes you feel good. Like, what is my purpose in life? Man, that's good. Just finding out what the purpose of living is for. What do you like to do? What don't you like to do? Like, as you go through that first quarter, so that you can be more fulfilled early, so that you're not getting to the next quarter, if we can call it, and then trying to figure that out and figuring out like you're behind in life. Now you're in the age range to where now you can just find out what makes me feel good. You can start working towards something. Now you can work towards something. I think a lot of times, because people waste so much time, that when they get to 40, they get to 50, later on down the road, they're wondering like, holy crap, I'm just trying to find out who I was. Well, in the second quarter, that's where you got to be doing that at. Like, seriously, that's where you ought to really be doing that at.
Now, see, now this is what I have. So I'm going to run through the quarters real quick to give you the big picture. So I'm saying in the first quarter, you got that controlled discovery period. In quarter two, I just call that rumble, young man rumble. You know what I mean? And if you think about a basketball or a football game, after second quarter, you got halftime. And so generally somewhere within that second quarter, you're going to call a timeout. So you can kind of reassess things, make any adjustments before you go into halftime and have the big, long conversation. And so I look at 20 to 30 as the period of time before you take the timeout. And in that period from 20 to 30, your main focus should be going as hard as you can on income. It's huge. From 20 to 30, you need to know exactly what career field you're going to be in, and you need to be going hard at it. Saving as much as you can, making smart investments, focused on you, not focused on chasing women, not focused on any of that, but focused on you and your income. And then at 30, there's that timeout. During that period, I think is when you can start opening your mind and opening your eyes to possibly getting married, having children, building a family, and continuing on through the rest of that second quarter to age 40. From 40 to 60, I view that as where you should be able to move into a more purpose-filled business. And so by that, I mean, from 20 to 40, you may be in that job or career that you don't love, but it's supplying you the proper income and you're able to provide for your family. But if you do it right and you go hard enough, by the age of 40, I believe you should be able to transition into something that you love and enjoy. And so, for example, if you built a sales organization from 20 to 40, by 40, you should just be sitting back doing training and then possibly starting your passion business, which would look something like the restin2050.org for A.L. Boykin, or Elevating Men. This is a passion project for myself. If you do that successfully from 40 to 60, where you're making that impact, 60 and beyond is really where you just kind of reap the harvest, all the fruits of your labor over all those years of hard work, building your family. By 60, you should be able to just sit back and enjoy those fruits. And so, like I said at the beginning of all of this, I think that a lot of us men feel out of sync because we're living based off the wrong quarter of life. We're in our third quarter, but we're still in the first quarter mentally. Right. Or you have men who are in their 60s where they should just be, at that point, reaping rewards, but they're still in the, 20 to 40 phase of building. And so there's a feeling of being out of sync. And so, Chris, what would you just say to that whole concept of living life in four quarters? And do you feel that Lauren, I'm sorry. You have some input?
Real quick, what the hell are you eating that you making it to 80?
Making it to 80. What? Oh man, that's the average life expectancy now, man.
No, it's not.
2021. It's 78.9.
Not of a black man. It may be of a woman, but not of a black man. Our life expectancy ain't that high.
Now I'm going overall.
Okay. All right.
Overall life expectancy.
I just want to be clear because it sounds good. I'm like, man, this dude got some food over there that he needs.
Hey, now I'm telling you, I'm living outside of an accident or something like that. I'm living to 80 at least.
What y'all don't realize is he's 70 right now, just looking like he's 20.
See what I'm saying? That's what y'all missing out on. But seriously though, if you take care of yourself, your diet, exercise, getting the proper amount of rest, I believe that we all can live that long. Science and technology, and God is in our favor, and so definitely 80 is reasonable for most of us.
I'm with you. I'm just
I got you. But Chris, what's your take on the four quarters of life?
Yeah, you guys are right on point with that. I mean, you got your discovery, as you stated, from 0 to 20, and then from that point on, right in between the rumble, young man rumble, I did it backwards. Like I'm in my point now where I'm grinding and I'm pushing and I'm pressing. I'm single, and I have a woman I'm focused on. I'm focused on grinding and building a legacy, so I can bring a woman into my life and have a wife. Because I got married so young that I was already playing husband in my early 20s, so I didn't have that time to rumble. I was too busy being a husband and raising a son, and so I got caught up and I had to do it backwards. But I mean, in case in point, when you're looking at those things as a young man, if we're talking to young men right now and we're trying to feed them, I would say, follow that, because that is a great parallel to where you want to go as far as, discovery, because you got to discover who you are. You got your young man rumble where you're pushing yourself in a situation you need to be. And then you got your grind mode where you're grinding it out. And like you say, around your 40s and your 60s, you're kind of putting yourself in a position to have your own. And around your 60s, you're now enjoying the fruits of your labor because you have a successful business or businesses, and you're doing great things. So I believe that is a good will to put out there. I would even say go as far as to actually make that a good model point for young men when you're talking to them and you show them this will and how the will should work. Because a lot of times we don't know enough because no one has showed us enough. So if we start showing them how to do these things, a lot of what these generational curses that we do have will fall to the wayside.
Absolutely. That's the goal. That's the goal here. And so, we're just trying to find different systems and different ways of viewing things that can really help the next generation avoid a lot of the mistakes that we made. I did the same thing as you, Chris. I jumped out there early. I had all of my children before the age of 30, versus after. And I can attest, I can only speak to my own life. I know that I could have been a lot more had I followed the 4 quarters, as we have it laid out here. From your standpoint, Andrew, you always give us a lot of wisdom. I always appreciate it. And so just looking at the 4 quarters of life, the way that I have it laid out, do you have any input, anything that you would change, add, modify?
Corey Infamy just got finished posting, where is it? Something about, the younger they are, the more malleable their minds are. And what you just got finished saying was 0 to 20 is discovery. And discovery, when I hear that, says that based on our conversations, that if they have to go out and discover for themselves because there is no direction in their home, there is no guidance in their home, then they're going to try and put anything in that missing place. And usually what happens is, we had this conversation last week, a young lady actually said that when this trauma hits them at 5 years old, that's when that malleable mind closes and it hardens, because now they're actually pushed out into the world to fend for themselves through kindergarten. And when I say kindergarten, meaning they're out of the household, anything goes with all these other kindergartners, and they have to now fend for themselves and find themselves. So that means that this lady who made this comment, she's now dating a 50-year-old man who is still stuck at 5 years old, trying to discover himself. And these are the things that we are really missing out on the words that we're using. So this 0 to 20 is a discovery phase. And it's us men who don't understand that we should not allow them to freely discover. We should actually show them some things that might actually help them when they get to 20 and 21 for their next stage. So they can actually start to look at some things that say, okay, I do like that. I do like this, versus let me try that and let me try this, which does not come from in the home.
So, but before we move on to the next section, I just need just one key thing from each of you during the discovery phase. What should a young man look to discover about himself or about the world around him? What's one thing that's important? And so I'll just start it off. I think one of the most important things really to kind of figure out is what you enjoy doing, something that you possibly enjoy enough that you can spend that 20 to 40 doing it, and even having that time out and creating a family, but something that you're passionate enough about, because work is a third of your life. We sleep 8 hours, we work 8 hours, and then there's only 8 hours left for family and whatever else you enjoy. And so with that being such a big part of our life, I think that somewhere within that 0 to 20 phase, whether it's through our parents, schools, different workshops, different organizations, I think we need to focus our young men on finding something that they can do and go hard at from 20 to 40. So that's my take. Laurent, what is one thing that should be discovered during that time?
Exactly what you said is discovering self. I believe the same thing, that just looking for what it is that makes you feel good. What are you looking for? Like most of my life, I'll even say I didn't know what I was here for, and I didn't know why I was here. I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and I felt lost within. And I think that's exactly what happens. That our young men are feeling lost within. They got to discover themselves before they discover something else. So just finding out, letting them get in different activities, trying different things, And once again, Andrew was right. Leading them, like directing the young men, not just for them to try it, but they have direction on what can be able to help them. So, but I have to agree with you on that, man. Definitely discovering self.
Good, good, good. Who wants to go next? Who wants to take that next?
I go next.
Okay.
Hey, like you said, discovery. That is a major part of it. That's the meat and potatoes of everything. Once you discover who you are, that's like cracking a code. That's everything. We didn't get the chance to discover who we were. A lot of us are now discovering who we are as men, because some of us might have grown up in a situation where we were in single parent homes and we were doing other things. Sometimes when you're the oldest child, you become the man for your mother. And I know this. You become the man for your mother. You are the man. You are her man. And it's unfortunate for you because you never get a chance to discover who you really are, because certain responsibilities are now thrust upon you. And I think it's valuable, and I think it's imperative that a young person gets to discover who they are very early, because the earlier you discover who you are, the less of a battle you're going to have to face of what we call identity crisis. You don't have an identity crisis because you know who you are. A lot of men go through identity crisis, which is why they become chameleons and they paint pictures of themselves that are not true. So the first and foremost thing you have to do is discover who you truly are and what you're truly good at. And I'm not just talking sports, because I want a young man not to rely on sports so much. I rely on sports heavily. And I don't want our young men to rely on sports as a way out. There's so many other ways that you can make $1 million. There's so many other ways you can become a millionaire, a billionaire. And I'm talking simple trade jobs. I'm talking plumbers, carpenters, welders. These men make a lot of money. Auto mechanics make a lot of money, and those careers are hidden from young black men because all they want them to see is how to dribble a ball, how to catch a ball, how to run down on something. It's just, you take away the essence of a young person when you don't let them discover who they truly are. I think you let them get back to the essence so they can discover who they truly are.
Man, you said a mouthful right there. That's huge. That's huge. I gotta touch on that for a second, because we do. If you see a tall brother, if he's a 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", automatically, man, you should be playing ball. What's to say that he isn't a potential doctor, a brain surgeon, a motivational speaker, an author? So we got to stop pigeonholing our children by pushing them directly into sports, or having the media as their biggest influence, and that pushes them towards, everybody's trying to be a rapper. And so, there's no shortage of 30 and 40-year-old, people still trying to be rappers, you know what I mean? Because we have such a narrow focus on where we can get money. And so, man, that's powerful. That's powerful. And we'll touch on that here again in just a second. Andrew, what was your one thing that they need to discover?
I don't know how it could be done, but Chris said the word value, and I'm hoping that they can actually find a value system early in life. And that means, and the guys that we're talking about, or we have been in general, are fatherless young men. And that means that they understand the value that their mother is actually providing, meaning she didn't leave. She gets up and goes to work. She doesn't sleep. She gets back up and goes to work. She feeds. She does everything. So that is valuable, meaning we don't necessarily value the women in our lives. So when we grow up, we don't necessarily value the women in our lives. And in doing so, when we value just the pieces that are most important that sustained our life, if we learn this, then we'd be less likely to bring harm to it. Meaning, do I really want to go out with those guys in the middle of the night ride in that car and they go rob something, what kind of hurt is that going to cause to my household, to my mother, to the person that is depending on me to help her with the other 3 kids? You know, I don't have necessarily a value system. I have to find something to believe in that, and then value it so much outside of my household. And that's where we begin our search outside of our household, which is kind of backwards because we're always taught that our strength comes from within.
Wow. And see, and that goes into this comment here, Brother Sean White. First off, I want to say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for sharing this with your network. I see that you shared it with a couple people, and we greatly appreciate that. But Brother White, he said, I know from 0 to 20, I had an identity crisis. No father in the home, and the drug dealers and my uncles were my role models, unfortunately. And there's way too much of that in our community. And that speaks to exactly what you said, Andrew. When there isn't someone to show you, they're going to go out and find it somewhere, right? You're not going to live life with no information. And so it really does just leave you in a situation where you're getting it from the wrong people. And so what we want to talk about next, so that was the 4 quarters of life. So for those of you that are just tuning in, today we're talking about how men can live a more fulfilled life. And so we just went over a concept just called the 4 quarters of life. Lord willing, we live to the age of 80. And so that gives us 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 60, and 60 to 80. Through the years 0 to 20, we call that controlled discovery and preparation, just preparing for life, discovering who you are, what you're about, what you enjoy, what are your likes and your dislikes. From 20 to 40 is, we call it rumble, young man rumble. That's when you want to go as hard as you can in your chosen career path. Now, of course, there's going to be a timeout at around the age of 30. And so we suggest from 20 to 30, you're going hard in your career. You're making as much income as you can. You're saving, you're investing, you're making wise decisions. Also during that discovery phase, don't mess up dramatically. Of course, you can be redeemed from just about anything, but we're talking about, major, instances with the law, things like that, having children before you're ready to be responsible, burdening yourself in unnecessary debt. As soon as you turn 18, it can get a credit card. Don't do any of that. Okay. 20 to 30, go hard on your plans and your goals. Around 30, take a pause, find the woman of your dreams, someone that you can spend the rest of your life with, that you can love and care for, build a family. From 30 to 40, you continue that run, right? And then from 40 to 60, if you've done that right, if you've done everything right, by 40, you should be looking towards moving into your purpose. And so maybe 20 through 40, you were working the job that you don't like. By 40, you should be looking at that big promotion. You should be looking at being able to transition into possibly your own business or into some type of community work that you enjoy. And then from 60 to 80, it's all about just reaping the harvest, the fruits of your labor from all those years. And so moving into the next half of it, because these are 2 concepts that work in tandem to give men fulfilled lives. And so you want to control your 4 quarters of life, and then you want to implement a system that we call SWAG. And so we have our own acronym for that. SWAG, it's spelled SWAG. For us, that stands for systems, wealth, appeal, and then guide, growth, and grounding. Okay. And so I'm just going to go through each of those. And then, guys, I want to get your input on that, because, again, this is something we're going to be presenting to young men who are trying to improve their lives and get off on the right track. And so I'm not coming from a standpoint of knowing it all. I'm coming from a standpoint of this is an idea, and I definitely like some feedback and some input. And so starting with the S, we have systems. I believe that all men, really all people, but men specifically, need to have a system for their life. That system involves the management of your time. It involves the management of your stress. It involves the management of your health. And so these are all different categories that you have to create systems for. One thing that I do personally, and it's really important to me, I have to stay on a specific schedule or I become unsuccessful. When things are hitting on all cylinders for me personally, I'm up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I have my talk with God. I get some exercise, get the blood pumping. I get my breakfast in. I have a little time to relax. I get busy on my work. I work until I can't. I spend some time with my family, and I repeat the process, and so everyone has to have their system. One thing that I found is helpful for me is really using technology. And so if you look at my phone calendar, it probably looks like I'm busier than any person on earth, but it's because I have alerts for almost everything. I remind myself to drink water. I remind myself to eat. I remind myself to call my mother. I put everything in a reminder to make sure that I don't miss things. And so that is a really key element. And so when you're creating your time management plan for your life, you have to make sure that you're including the areas of life that are important for you to build and focus on, because we know what you focus on grows, what you ignore dies. And so if you want to be able to manage your stress, you have to put that into your routine. For me, managing stress is I got to take a couple hours and listen to some music at least once a week. You know what I'm saying? I could drink some tea, some coffee, whatever, but really just blocking out that time and I'm just listening to music, vibing, relaxing, letting my mind run. I need that for my stress management. Also, to build myself up before the week starts, there's a group of people that I have to call and tell that I love them. You know, that includes my mother, that includes the man that was in my life that helped to raise me. That includes, my children, making sure that I have conversations with all that builds me up. That's part of my stress management. And then, of course, there's the health management part. And so just dealing with the S in swag systems. As men, what systems have you been able to implement in your life that you feel have helped you and could help someone else? And I'll start with you, Laurent.
Just time management. I say time management is extremely important because what you do with your time determines who you become. And so time management is one of the things that I implement, and that comes with a structured schedule. And I even train to teach on this, that I set time blocks. I set time blocks through my day. Okay, you know what? From this time to this time, I'm going to be working on writing my motivational speech. And then after I write my motivational speech, I'm going to take an hour, 2 hour break to do whatever I want to do. And that also helps with my stress as well. Because what I found out is that if you don't take time for yourself throughout your day, what happens is you get a lot of anxiety that will be unmanageable. And your heart begins to beat. You become ineffective. I mean, it does a lot. So it reduces my stress, but also allows me to get things done. So those are the two things that I truly implement in my day that I've found have been made a dramatic impact on my life in general. It also allows me to spend time with my children when I need to spend time with them and not be so caught up in the day-to-day work, the day-to-day hustle and bustle. You know what I mean? Because at one point I used to be so much, I had horrible time management. I mean, and I do mean horrible, y'all, to the point where I used to not know how to give my children attention when I was working. Like, I didn't know how to do that, how to give my children attention while I was working. And so I was neglecting my children and at the time. And I didn't know how to balance that. So now that I know, you know what, I'll do this from this time to that time. I also can get my children in there, then I can get back to work, and then I can stop again. But I realized that managed my stress and helped me to be more efficient and effective in my day and life.
Man, that's some real stuff you said right there. I was actually dealing with that last week. I was having because this year I'm busier than ever between trying to promote the Elevated Men platform and get that off the ground. Working with my insurance business. I found that I have less time now, and I actually had to readjust my schedule at the beginning of the year and start my day earlier, or I wasn't going to get everything put in there. And it was actually a thought that I was having. I'm like, as a man, how do you really balance between the amount of time that you need to spend with your children so that you can pour into them and be a good father versus how much time you need to be away from them to give them the lifestyle that you want them to have, because that requires you being away working. And so there's always that thing that's kind of pulling at your heart, like, okay, I know I'm doing what I need to be doing to take care of my family, but at the same time, man, I ain't seen my kids all day. And, when I come home, they're like, Daddy, and I'm walking right past, bye, gotta go. And so
about that, Andrew, like what I found is that as far as the balance goes, the balance comes with, first of all, if you really want to know, talk to your children and ask them about how they feel about it. That's the one way you're gonna know. You're not gonna know if you don't ask them, like, am I here enough for you? Like, really ask them, how do they feel about you seeing them a lot, and let them really tell you what it is. But at the same time, right? At the same time, you're able to say, I'm gonna put this amount of hours away, over here, and you have to tell yourself that there's no right or wrong answer, but you got to do that, make that decision, and say, I'm gonna put this time away for my children, this time for my work. So you choose that. But I would say go to them first. I'm just saying the children to tell you.
Got you. Andrew, for the Essence Systems, any thoughts, any alternative acronym for the letter, or what are your thoughts on that systems portion?
Well, my thoughts on that is that I had no thoughts on that. I grew up at a time frame where I learned about, well, roots came out, and not only that, I went to the military, and I discovered that life was not fair for me, and woe was me. My shoulders got down, so I became very antisocial, anti-system. And what I learned was that the things that I wanted to do that were patterned from the system that I did see, I cut corners so that I did not have discipline. I did not want to do exactly what the system was doing because I was anti-system. I did not like the system, but I wanted some of the things from the system. So I had to start actually learning my why. I had to actually start unlearning my pain. I had to actually start forgiving myself, calming myself down, and then finding out exactly where I did fit, so that I could be the best in that moment, so that I can get to my next moment. That was my swag.
Got you. Appreciate that. Lojo, any thoughts on the systems portion? Just kind of setting up your life for success in that area.
Yeah, I mean, I touched one of the things I touched based on was discipline and the importance of discipline. And like for me, I gotta see it. Like I just have to see it. So I write stuff down. I put it on Post-it notes. I put it in my phone, just so I make sure I see it. And then once you're able to really see it, then you can kind of structure it and put it into whatever your workflow is. Because like for me, my workflow is different every day. Because I have kids. Well, kids will automatically change everything at the snap of a finger. If something's going on with them, you have to make that adjustment. And so, understanding what's important and making sure that you do that. Like you got to start with what's important. Your time with your family, or balancing your time with your family versus, your time away because you have to be a provider. And the more kids you have, the more stretched out you are. Because each kid deserves and needs individualized attention. That's just how it works. And so it's really taking the things that are most important, because that has to be your core. A lot of times when you hear people say they all over the place, and I have the tendency to do this sometimes, you say you're all over the place because you haven't properly sat down and planned everything out. And that's not saying, you got to plan out every single step you take, but it's making sure that you put the core of what's important into your plan every single day or every single week. Sometimes it's not a daily thing, it's a weekly thing, and that's really where we find our true balance. And, we live by our phones, but our phones can be our worst enemy because they have the tendency to cause distraction. Your text go off, you get a phone call. And so sometimes I have to turn my do not disturb on my phone, just so I can sit there and I can actually focus on the task at hand, the thing that I need to complete without being interrupted. Because the minute you get interrupted, you lose that train of thought. And coming
No, that's
back,
a big part of it too. On the systems, like with time management, I think that's a part that we haven't really touched on a whole lot. Is distractions, or eliminating distractions, is actually a huge part of time management. And so you have to have your list of non-negotiables, things that have to get done, but you also need that list of things that I'm not going to do. And so whether that be, if you're a person that likes to have beers or wine or have a little drink or whatever, maybe you reserve that for the weekend. And so Monday through Friday, boom, I'm laser focused. I'm not going off the rails in any type of way. I only do this on these days, or I only congregate with my friends on Saturday. I visit my mother on Sunday. So you got to like kind of compartmentalize, and then you have to remove. There has to be a lot of removing, and so I appreciate that.
And you gotta be unapologetic about it. That's
definitely.
You have to be unapologetic about it, because especially like, you know, when you're doing something like we're doing, you know, I went live today on Instagram, and I apologized because I didn't do my little motivational thing I do. And then I said, you know what, but I'm not apologizing. Like, Sunday is my time with my family, so here, let's make a deal. I won't do anything on Sundays because I don't want to take that time away from them, but I also don't want to tell you, you know, as a viewer, as a listener, that I am going to do something and then not carry it out, because I'm a man of my word. So that just kind of goes into, you know, really organizing your time and saying, okay, you know, this is what I'm doing on this day, and I'm going to be unapologetic about it. You know, I'm not going to I apologize because I wasn't there for, you know, this person or that person because they needed me in that moment, because maybe in that moment I couldn't give you my undivided attention. I probably weren't going to be able to be the best person to help you in that moment anyway. So
Now, one conversation I had with my boys not too long ago, because me and my boys are like, I mean, we're like this, like peanut butter and jelly. You see me, you see my boys 9 times out of 10 if I'm not not working. And so I had to have a conversation with them before this year started, and it was about time, effort, and reward. And so, you know, what I told them, I said, look, I'm going to be extremely busy this year. It's going to be different than what you're accustomed to. I know I'm always busy, but it's going to be at a different level for a while. And so what I did, I said, well, hey, does 2 years sound like a long time to you? And so my son I was talking to, he was 9. And he's like, yeah, that's a long time, Daddy. I said, okay, so 2 years ago you were 7, right? He said, yeah. And so I reminded him of an outing that we had that was very memorable to him. I said, does that seem like a long time ago? And he was like, no. I said, that was 2 years ago. And he's like, oh, wow. And so just kind of helping him see that Dad can take this 2 years and you're not going to notice it. You know, you may feel it day to day, but as long as we keep that end goal in mind, that, hey, you know, we're trying to get that bigger house, or we're trying to level up in life, and Daddy has to work to provide that, then I need you to understand that 2 years, even though it's going to feel like a long time day to day, we're going to look up, we're going to be in a new position, and you'll be happy that I did it. And so, you know, it's really about also having that conversation with the children, talking to them like they're a little older than they are, you know what I mean? Because they're smart and they get it. They really do get it. And so there's 3 more letters. We're going to get through this real quick because it's almost time to wrap up. And so we went through systems. W is for wealth. I'm just going to kind of break that down. On the wealth portion of it, there's just a few key things. One, if you're a parent, get involved early in the wealth building process of your child. Get involved early on the wealth building process for your child. What do I mean by that? If you have good credit, as soon as your child turns 18, make them an authorized user on your credit card. That gives them an immediate boost, and it'll give them access that they wouldn't have otherwise had, right? When it comes to income tax time, we get a child tax credit. Some people get $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 for their income tax. I can show you on a financial calculator that can go a long way invested in the stock market and left for the child, when they become of age. And so we have to get out of this mindset of, during my lifetime, I take care of me, you figure it out, you take care of yourself. There has to be some forethought. There has to be some advanced planning. And so making our children financially literate during that 0 to 20 discovery phase is extremely important, so that during 20 to 40, they're not piling on debt because of a lack of financial literacy. They're not getting high interest, credit cards. They're not getting the highest interest on their car payment and things like that, because you've set them up for success early, teaching them about credit, teaching them the benefits of being a homeowner versus a renter. All of those things are important. And then the other part that ties into wealth building is your career. And so, like Chris said earlier, we got to stop looking at these narrow fields and kind of like broaden our horizons. There's a lot of trades that make a ton of money. Like you said, a plumber, an electrician. There's truck drivers that make $250,000 a year, just driving over the road. And you don't need a college degree for that. There's a lot of things where you can go and get a certification and make a great 6-figure income. And so we have to expose our children to more of those opportunities so that they don't feel like, if I want to be successful in life, there's only 2 or 3 options. We need to really open that up for them. And so that's kind of the wealth piece. Also, just a tip: right now in this current environment, you should not be holding money in a savings account. You should not be holding money in a savings account. You shouldn't be holding money in a savings account. That's huge right now, because literally the market is like giving away money, right? I don't know if you guys are paying attention, but the price of everything has been going up over the past month and a half. It's not going to stop anytime soon. That's inflation from all of the money printing that we've been doing, from COVID, from things being suppressed. So right now, it makes sense to have money at work for you. And so that's the wealth part. This other part I want to talk about is just the A, which is appeal. That has to do with the way that you carry yourself. Lojo, you had a point?
Yeah, no, just real quick. We talked about teaching our kids about wealth. I just want to be real quick about this. Teach yourself first, so that you can effectively teach your kid wealth. Because when you talk about wealth, especially as it relates to us as Black people, is we're not educated, and therefore we don't pass down that knowledge the correct way. We're passing down material knowledge as it relates to wealth. So if you don't know, educate and make yourself literate, so you make sure that you pass that along to your kids effectively.
Good point. No, you're absolutely right on that. And maybe you learn together. There's a lot of courses now that have been created to help teach children financial literacy. And if you're at that first building block of learning yourself, that's something that you all can kind of go through together. But seek out those resources, because they're there. Stop using YouTube just for music and to look at relationship videos or whatever else. There's also access to all of the financial literacy information that you could possibly need. And so that's a matter of choice. It's a matter of choice. We got to spend our time wisely, and that's part of the time management and the systems. And so the other part is appeal. This has to do with the way that you carry yourself as a man, how you interact with other people, so that you can get what you want out of life. So at the beginning, we talked about you can be a good man, but not get good results from being a man. A lot of that ends up falling in the A category, which is how you carry yourself and deal and interact with other people, and especially women. Like we talk about, we want to rebuild the family and rebuild the community. That starts with the relationship between the man and the woman. And so how you talk to women, how you approach women, how you dress, boys running around, sagging and, clothes too big and things like that. It puts you in a position where you're probably not going to get a favorable position at your job. People aren't taking you serious, even though you may be. They're judging you by the content of your clothes versus your character. But it's something that you've put on yourself. And so, Andrew, just really quick, what thoughts do you have on how young men can focus on the way that they carry themselves and come across to other people?
Man, you giving me all these LeBron questions, man. Gosh, but I had a lot of other stuff in my mind. How they can carry themselves it goes back to value again, because when you were talking about wealth, a lot of kids, and I'm generalizing, but we were talking about a lot of kids who look for money, look for finances. We're talking about the effects of kids, and the effects is not necessarily having the money. The effects is not having the money, and the embarrassment of not having the clothes, or the embarrassment of not having the car, or the embarrassment of riding in the passenger side of your friend's car who has everything. It's that pain that we go back to, which creates this dog that says, okay, I gotta get wealth, I gotta get money, I gotta get finances, and none of that is really wealth. Wealth is actually being able to be comfortable, not only with yourself, but what you have and don't have, so that when somebody flashes something in your face, that wealth says, hey, I'm full. I am full. There's nothing you can tempt me with that will make me go outside of my fullness. And in that is what that A, which appearance now shows, that says that, you know what, I don't have to look at that man who's a welder whose hands are dirty and he has this hood on his head and he has no women because he's working from sun up to sundown. I'm looking at the appeal of this person that has everything that I want, which is that the things that we acquire or buy. So my understanding of wealth is skewed. Does that answer your question?
It makes sense. Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense because um, the way that you relate to wealth and acquiring it is going to affect the way that you appear. And so, if your goal is to gain wealth through, entertainment and media, then you're going to dress accordingly. And if you're aspiring to be a businessman, you're going to dress and act accordingly. And so, definitely, the wealth aspect does play a lot into the appearance. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. LaRon, I know you've got to get ready to go. He told me in advance that he had a meeting coming up, and so the last letter in the system is G. That stands for God. That stands for grounding. That stands for growth. I believe that as men, we have to be on a constant spiritual journey of improvement. We should always be looking to connect to God, our higher source, our higher power, and getting our direction from Him. And so, LaRon, can you speak to the G and swag and the importance of it, and just kind of what that looks like before you go?
Absolutely. I mean, you got to have a foundation. You have to have a foundation in which you are guided by, and God honestly has to be your foundation. That's the way you know how to maneuver in life. That's the way you know how to move in life, is by having a foundation. That's where you get your energy in life from. That's where you get your drive in life from. Just having a spiritual connection with God, letting Him be your guide, letting Him be your lead, really putting Him first. And I don't mean just in a religious way, but really finding out what it is that He has for you in your life, right? You have to have a personal relationship. You want to have a personal relationship with God, because once again, your spiritual man is extremely important. Your spiritual man is where it starts first. You gotta feel healthy in your spirit, because if your spirit's not healthy, neither will the results out there be. So you gotta be healthy in your spirit, because what is in your spirit is going to be what's presented in your world. What are you dealing with in your world? So you want to make sure that you really keep connected to God, have a relationship with God. And I don't like to say whoever your God is. I know who my God is. You know what I mean? So we're not gonna go like that. But I'm just saying, you really got to get spiritual in this thing. As you all know, I talk about God. I'm a very spiritual individual, right? And He's the one who's been guiding me. He's the reason why I speak like I speak, and I give credit to Him. He's the reason why my home is blessed. He's the reason why we have peace, right? And a lot of people don't have peace because their soul, their mind is not connected to the Spirit of God. And so I would say being spiritual, having a spiritual relationship is that important, because that's the foundation of everything else in life. Everything else in life, spiritual is the foundation of everything else in life.
I agree. That's definitely a good point. It's a good point. I like what you said about however you are internally is the world that you're going to create externally. That's a huge piece of advice. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Let me ask you this. So, Chris, this is your first time really hearing about, the swag system and the acronym and how that all goes.
Because I didn't want to interrupt you all, but I didn't want to just cut off either. But I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. Hey, tune in next week. I will say that. You all are my family. I love you, brothers on the panel. I can't wait to connect with you tomorrow. But you all have a wonderful night, by the way.
You too, man. Thanks for coming on as always, man. You always give great input, and we value it. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Y'all be blessed.
All right, you too.
All right.
So Chris, with you being new on the panel, this is your first time really hearing about the swag system. You've done mentoring for the past 15 years, so you probably work with more young men than probably any of us here on the panel. What are your thoughts on that system, and do you feel that it could be beneficial? What parts do you like, don't like? What do you think could be added or changed?
I mean, no, you don't reinvent the wheel. The structure is beautiful. I mean, God is at the end for a reason. I mean, because God is the beginning and the end. He's Alpha and the Omega. But at the end of the day, he's the foundation. And if swag is the foundation and God is the last letter, when you're looking at foundation, when you build a house, you start with the foundation. God is the foundation. And as long as God is the foundation, anything that you put out that's positive and it is structured around his principles is going to blossom. It's going to be powerful. It's going to manifest something great because God is great. God is the author of everything. And if God is in you and he's the structure that you live by, there is nothing in life that you cannot accomplish. What I've seen in young men is that God is not present. And because God isn't present, someone else is there. Because if God isn't present, then guess who is present? The enemy's present. And if the enemy's present, then he's the one that's controlling the narrative right now. And so until God is controlling the narrative won't change. So what you have to do is speak life into these young people. Put you know what I mean? I'm not even saying put God in their face. Speak life into them. Let them see who God is through you. People see, because it's the old saying said that Jesus in me will see the Jesus in you, and you're easy to love. So if the Jesus in me see the Jesus in you, then that makes it easy for me to love you because I see Jesus in you. I see him. What we're facing with is like it's the identity crisis. I don't see Jesus in you when I talk to you. So at the end of the day, I can't love you. I don't see my Father in you. It's hard for me to love you if I don't see my Father in you. But it's easier to love you when I see my Father in you. That's facts. So what we have to do is start pouring more into these young people true life principles. True principle. Speaking true life and speaking life into these young folks. And when you do that, that will manifest itself into something great. So I think you're on the right path, my brother. And I love it. I love what you guys are doing. I'm thankful that you guys have been a part of your panel today to speak. I do have to go, but I would definitely say continue on this journey that you guys are on. Y'all on a positive journey. Elevating men, elevating young men. And also, before I go, I would say that teaching these young men that women are queens. Getting them out of this thought process of what they're being taught through music. It's a fakeness that they're giving, and it's a perception that doesn't need to be continued on. Music and the process of young men looking at women and objectifying women as sexual objects. Moving them into a path of, we're going to move into a path of righteousness with young men, and we got to tear down and put everything in place and everything in perspective. Women are queens. They're not whores. They're not none of the other things that you may think that they say in this music that is tainting a woman's image. Because you were made from a woman. You came from a woman. Therefore, you got to understand that when God made her, he made her so she can one day help make you. In no way, shape, or form should you ever treat her less than the mother of the earth. That's what she is. She's the mother of the earth. Without her, there's no you. About that,
bro. That was man. That was good input. That was good input. You had the. I think you can pass the plate on that one, man. I see amen and preaching, all of that in the comment section, man. So I think it's about time to take offering. But no, seriously, brother. Man, thank you so much, Chris. Like I said, I know you're a busy brother. For those of you that are just tuning in, Chris is a former police officer. He served our community in that way. He's been mentoring for the past 15 years, helping our young men find themselves and live a better life. He's an actor. He's a restaurateur. He makes some of the best wings in the city, if not the best. Hey, where can they check you out now, Chris? Where can they check you out?
They are the best. They're the best. I don't want to brag.
So where can they get the wings at, bro? Where can they get the wings at? I mean, this is national, so make sure you say Kansas City.
Okay, so yeah, I would say if you're in the greater Kansas City area in Westport, we have Wing Lovers USA right next to Big Biscuit. The address is 4037 Mill Street, KCMO. If you're ever in that area, look us up. Best wings you ever tasted. Hopefully, I'm there to cook them for you, because if I cook them, as Andrew will tell you, it's almost like, hey, it's like meeting. It's like, hey, I don't know how to put it more than say it. It's sky cracked. You get to meet God for that moment, because that's how good it tastes.
Man, like the Chiefs could be back in the Super Bowl, and you more focused on the plate of wings than the game. Something like that.
Exactly.
I got you. So yeah, definitely check him out. Again, his name is Chris Galloway. Thanks for joining us, brother. We really appreciate you. We're getting ready to go ahead and wrap this up, though. Yes, sir.
Guys, much love to everyone on your panel. Continue what you do, AJ. Man, I love it. I love what I'm seeing. Andrew, much love to you. Lojo, nice meeting you, brother. Continue on that path you're on of righteousness. Let's all get there together, man. Peace and love.
Pleasure.
Perfect. All right, bro.
Yep.
So that is it, people. This is us. We are Elevated Men. We appreciate all of you tuning in. We appreciate all the likes. We appreciate the comments, the shares. We appreciate you guys, chiming in and just adding to the conversation, because that really helps us break this down and peel back the layers, because this is a really big and deep problem that we're trying to tackle, which is the mental health of men, so that we can become better. We can be better fathers, build better families, and stronger communities. It's not anything that we're going to be able to do in any one particular conversation. We know that. We don't propose to even have all the answers. What we do propose is that we're willing to have the conversation. We're willing to share our life experiences from a place of honesty, in hopes of helping someone else. And so that's what we do here every Monday night, 7 p.m., Elevating Men. Again, I want to give you guys just a couple announcements really quick. Make sure that you tune in next Monday. We'll be back, same time, same place. What we're going to be talking about next week is our relationship with women. So it's going to be a good one. It's really important that as men, we understand how to deal with the women in our lives, not just our romantic relationships, but the women around us, our sisters, how to treat our mothers better, and things like that. So we're going to be having that whole conversation. We definitely want you all to tune in and join in. Also on next Wednesday, very excited about a great interview with the former mayor of Compton, California. His name is Omar Bradley. We're going to have a really good conversation about some of the gang culture and how that started in the 80s and 90s, how he was able to change his life, move into politics, and some of the things that happened after that. It's going to be a blockbuster. You definitely don't want to miss it. And so be looking at the Elevating Men's page. If you would like to see any of the replays, and so if you've been here on Facebook, you say, man, there was this one that I really liked, you can go to YouTube, type in Elevating Men, and you'll find the past videos. And so before we go, gentlemen, did you guys have anything that you wanted to add? Any last words or thoughts?
I would like to hopefully have you have a conversation like really soon. I'm going to read this one by Corey Infamy. I'm a believer in God, but what about those who don't believe? I think that is where foundation comes in play. And I hope the conversation is black man versus the church, and understand that church and God are two different entities. But I believe that a lot of our conversation centers on our lack of foundation, as well as our lack of providing a foundation for those who think that we have a foundation, or who think that we're actually standing on the foundation. I would like to have that conversation about those who don't believe in God.
That is on the topic list. We'll definitely tackle that. That's a deep subject right there. So we'll definitely get into that. Just a quick thought on that, though, just to address it, because I did see that comment as well. I do believe that when it comes, to God, versus, say, foundation, the way that I view that is really being connected with your innermost thoughts. As we know, success in life really, in some ways, has to do with God, but we do know, even from the Bible, that it teaches us the rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. And so just as you can be doing things perfectly and end up having pitfalls in your life, we see it every day where there are people who live dishonestly and they gain, favor in the world. And so a lot of times you really can't connect God and material success. because those are two different things. But I do believe that all people, whether they believe in, God or Jesus Christ or whatever else they may believe in, can find a way to become grounded in their personal and everyday life. And so, yeah, we definitely need to have that conversation, and we appreciate the comment, Corey. We appreciate that. Lojo, any last words or thoughts?
Nah, man, this was a great conversation. We probably needed to even break it out some more. It was such a great conversation with so many layers. I to everybody that's watching, man, I just hope that in some form or fashion, we have given you something that you can connect to, provided some level of support in any form or fashion. That's the whole reason that we're doing this. Honestly, we're not doing it because we're trying to get famous or anything like that. This is us trying to change the paradigm. It is us trying to, open up dialogue to start the process of healing, to begin to impart in young men steps to success. It's helped them understand their why. It's helped them to push towards their passion so that, they don't have the same pitfalls and missteps that, some of us have experienced in our own lives. So, much appreciated everybody tuning in. Please, 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 if there's anything you want us to maybe talk about, if you got a testimonial or something that we've said that helps us too, and keeps us motivated and inspired to continue to motivate and inspire. So thank you so much.
Awesome. We appreciate those last words, Lojo. Again, thank you guys, everybody. And then this is a personal ask from me. Tonight, I would like for you to visit restin2050.org. That's rest, RESTIN 2050.org. It's a plan that Mr. A.O. Boykin, one of our esteemed panelists, has come up with to really advance our community into the future. And so all the information is there on the site. If you like what you see, we'd like for you to take action and be a part of the restoration of our communities. Also, this is all sponsored by my insurance agency, A.L. Johnson Life Insurance Agency. And so if you ever have any questions about life insurance is very important, especially for our community. We have to stop leaving debt. We have to start leaving opportunity, and life insurance is a guaranteed way of doing that. And so if you have any questions, visit aljohnsongroup.com, or you can inbox me directly on Facebook at A.L. Johnson. We appreciate all of you again. Thanks for tuning in. Be here, same time, same place, Monday at 7 p.m. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great evening.